What's up, guys? So we're gonna talk about something different in this video. So we'll talk about my take on the movie. Actually, Dad feels the exact same way. I mean, he's a massive historian. Actually, so am I because of him. He was a history teacher um, in Australia a long time ago. So Dad got me in history a long time ago, and I love history movies. I love history books. And I'll tell you guys my take on the movie because Dad feels the same way. We left almost like a little over like halfway through the movie. I'll tell you why. Um, at at the end of the video, so stay tuned. Um, so the Guardian says this: so Napoleon Bonaparte. Critics of Napoleon epic have sorry if I misspelled it in title. I'm sorry. Anyways, critics of Napoleon. So Napoleon Bonaparte. Critics of Napoleon epic have fallen for Emperor's fibs. Um, says films military expert. The expert who advised Ridley Scott on the new movie's battle scenes and claims historians who attacked it have fallen for Bonaparte's own hype. Critics of the damaging and inaccurate portrayal of Napoleon Bonaparte in Ridley Scott's new cinematic epic Napoleon are just victims of the French Empire's enduring behind the film's vast battle scenes. Paul Bittis claims that the old Bonnie, as she as he sorry oh, sorry as he old Bonnie, as he was known to the Duke of Wellington's British troops, was promoted largely because he elaborated on his own success. Bonaparte's fibs impressed all France and intimidated his enemies until, that is, he met his Waterloo in 1815. Napoleon was famous for exaggerating his own victories, and there were not many ways to verify or challenge his version, right? Because it was like 1700s, 1800s, right? Said Bittis, the ex paratrooper who trained the film's ranks of extras. He would write a letter after a sea battle claiming he had taken four ships when in fact he had taken just one. He was a big bluffer and people believed him. So he got away with it. This is how he made his way up. So this picture right here says Jacques Lewis's David's 1805 portrait, Napoleon crossing the Alps photograph. So before the film's UK release last Wednesday, its grand depictions of some of the most renowned battles in European history, including Austerlitz and Waterloo, had already won its British director acclaim, but Scott's approach has also provoked conflict among historians and experts. Andrew Roberts, a Napoleon biographer, has attacked key scenes, including a fictitious meeting between the French commander and Wellington at Plymouth. The military historian Dan Snow has also identified the inaccuracies in the $200 million production starring Joaquin Phoenix. Snow warned audiences that Napoleon did not fire at the pyramids in Egypt or watch as Marie Antoinette was guillotined. Which, by the way, I'm going to give a spoiler alert towards the end of the video as well, because the beginning was very weird, very bizarre. There was no, like, you know, explanation of what was going on, you know. So I'm going to give some spoiler alerts because you already know. But let's continue. I'm continuing this. Um, Quote, I love historical epics. I love Ridley Scott, but if you're watching this movie, it ain't a documentary, Snow said. Bittis, however, defends the film's military authenticity, which he ensured, excuse me, by consulting manuals used by Napoleonic generals. I would like to criticize some of the historians who have criticized this film, he said. For a start, many of them are guilty of using the famous painting of Napoleon crossing the Alps on the covers of their books, which is certainly an inaccurate depiction. The well known uh, Jacques or Joaquin Louis David painting, described by the Guardian's Jonathan Jones as the ultimate propaganda image of Napoleon, shows the general's uniform billowing out as his horse Marengo rears up dramatically. So in this next photo here, it shows military advisor Paul Bittis on the set of Ridley Scott's Napoleon photograph. So here's that. So if you're gonna, so for Ridley Scott or anybody else is gonna make a historian movie, right? Make it accurate. Like, do your homework, do your research, make it accurate, and because if it's accurate, it's gonna be a good movie. If it's inaccurate, it's gonna be boring as all get out. Which I'll tell you what that was like. Trying to watch that movie. It says Bittis wants to set the record straight. Napoleon was actually riding a mule and wearing a thick coat when he made that journey. Understanding the power of this imagery, Bittis added, was clearly an element of Napoleon's success, but the flawed man at the heart of Scott's narrative is an equally valid portrayal. Roberts has claimed Scott was wrong to depict the French leader as a dictator who goes mad with hubris, and incorrect to imply Napoleon was defeated in Russia only because of cold weather. No mention is made of the typhus, he complains, and the Napoleonic historian Zach White has gone further, suggesting Scott White as gone further. Um, Gone further, suggesting that Scott has swallowed old British propaganda that painted Napoleon as a Corsican ruffian. I don't know how to pronounce that word. Corsican ruffian, I think it's called. But Bittis and Scott have both earned uh, plaudits, plaudits for the military tactics displayed in the film. Snow, in particular, praised the defensive square formations of the French. Oh, sorry, guys. Of the French troops. This gave This gave me sleepless nights, admitted Bittis. The squares were formed. The squares were formed in reaction to cavalry charges because it stopped the horses. I wondered how to get the extras to react in the right way. Then, fantastically, the first time really called for it. They did it the first time, and he offered to buy them all a drink. Bittis ran a boot camp in a former Napoleonic barracks for the 500 extras who made the grade, and then found himself in a tent at dawn with Phoenix and Scott before filming the Waterloo scenes, planning troop movements like a trio of military commanders. We had to use our men. We had to use our men to best effect with uh, skirmishers moving forward with harassing fire. Bittis said, I knew the historic formations, but we also had to think about access for the 10 or 11 cameras really works with. So I will show you guys in the next, after this article, I'll show you guys the hopefully I don't get copyrighted for it, but I want to show you guys anyway. It's I don't know. But I didn't see as soon as they said, let's go see Napoleon, I was like, oh, it's historic history movie. So whenever he says, "Oh, let's go see Napoleon," or "Let's go see," he mentions a history movie. I'm like, okay, let's go, because it's a history movie. I don't really think to look at the trailer for it, right? But he said the trailer was pretty good, I guess. Really, I don't know. Maybe drove past the movie theater and saw it. I guess like the poster, the billboard poster. I think I don't know. But anyways, I want to show you guys the trailer. I haven't watched the trailer yet, but I want to show you guys. Many extras had never held a musket before. Others were ex-military and had to quickly unlearn from their modern skills. Joaquin or Joaquin, I can't pronounce that name. Sorry. Wanted to know. So say Joaquin. I guess I don't know. Wanted to know. Wants to know. So Joaquin wants to know a lot about the types of cannon, um, and different mutinations or something like that. Mutinants. I told him about the grape shot. Used a short range. I don't want her to look at these ads. Where were we? Used a short range as last defense. I also explained how a technique used by the English, who would fire a cannonball low so it bounced, taking off heads as it came up. The momentum goes on, and there are examples of soldiers losing a foot by trying to stop one, said Bittis. Most crucial, though, was that the extras were not caught laughing or smiling. If Ridley had seen anyone smile, we would have started. We would have to start again. I told them to imagine the other side wanted to kill them, and that if they didn't do that, they were told as a sergeant with a long pike would kill them for deserting. The troops also had to walk towards the enemy until ordered to run and then keep going, even if the guy in front fell. He added, computer generated imagery replicated the soldiers' formations, but the cavalry runs and cannon fusillades were all real, although no real ammunition was used. I hope you appreciated this article. Before you move on, I wanted to ask you if you consider blah 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 blah. Anyways, so I want to show you guys the so let's look it up actually. Let's see, Napoleon.
General, we are discovered.
So this is not for the faint of heart. It's an R-rated movie. Um, oh my god, it was just so god. I have not seen the trailer, so I wasn't watching it. So anyway, so there's any like gruesome scenes in this trailer, and you don't want to watch it, or if you're 17 or under, just look away.
Wait! Guys! Detect them! Retreat! I'm not built like other men. Generals gathered in their masses. Move along now! Those in power only see me as a brute, unfit for higher office. Just like witches at black masses. But I follow in the footsteps of Alexander the Great and Caesar. Evil minds that plot destruction. If you look down, you'll see a surprise. Once you see it, you will always want it. Sorcerer of death construction. I must warn you.
Yeah, I mean, it is just So there is something that I want to share with you guys on a short, which I will later, but it's basically this. I'll share with you guys in a short. But it says here, is a Napoleon movie worth watching? And if one was looking for a nuanced retelling of Napoleon's life, one is bound to be disappointed. Um, as part from the end credits, which we didn't stay to the end credits, I highly doubt anybody did. Um, Mentioning the cost of life in all his military campaigns, there is no mention of his draconian policies with respect to his detractors, the conquered countries, the reintroduction of slavery. So I'm telling you right now, I mean, there is just so much wrong with that movie. Um, you know, good for like it's there's just so much wrong with that movie. I'm telling you, it is. So now we're gonna get to the end of this movie because I'm getting hungry. Um, so basically, all they did was just kill each other in that movie. There was just constant, like I said, war. You know what I'm saying? There was constant war in that movie. You know, there was. Oh yeah, the beginning of the movie. So I'm pretty sure that all of us that are talking about this, um, are basically saying the same thing. You know, so we're gonna watch some like Napoleon review videos too because I want to see what other people have to say. So Ridley Scott breaks down battle scenes from his movie Napoleon. Okay, History Legends channel a day ago says Napoleon movie was doomed from the start. Let's watch that video, but in a little bit. So basically, I'm pretty sure that all of us that are reviewing this movie are just absolutely going to give out, like I said, big spoiler alerts, nothing but spoiler alerts, because it is not worth watching. So I'll make a recorded video of me just talking about it. But let me tell you guys, this movie was just horrible from the get go, from the very beginning. So basically, the very beginning of the movie, you have like, I think it was like music, I think, the beginning of the movie. And then you have like, and then this lady comes in, there's like a big crowd. Then there's like this lady walking by, being okay with like hits. There was like a food fight. At the beginning, I thought it was like a food fight, but then it turns out that they're throwing those things at her, the food at her, as she's walking to the guillotine. Next, she uh, she doesn't get a chance to speak. Then what happens in the movie is that she you know it's tied. Her hands get tied behind her back. The guillotine thing, like the head. You know what I'm saying? And then you know the guillotine like drops down her head, chops her head off, and then like I think it was like Napoleon, I believe, I forget, but like Napoleon grabs her, you know, decapitated head and like holds it up, you know, um, and then from there it just got worse and worse. I fell asleep within like 5 minutes. I've been getting really good about like not sleeping during movies, but let me tell you, I was not tired that day. But that movie was so boring that I fell asleep within 5 minutes of the movie. It was that boring. And I woke up and then, Dad was like, "You want to go? This movie's boring." I was like, "Yeah, let's go." So, let's look at these reviews. So, the Napoleon movie was doomed from the start. Okay, so usually that you can like get rid of. But anyways, so history legend says this. Hollywood strikes again as they demolish almost mythical figure of Napoleon. Apart from the multiple historic inaccuracies, the story itself is not even interesting, and the time jumps ruin everything. Let's read some of the comments real quick. So I feel bad for my boss. He rarely goes to movies, and as a Napoleonic War fan, he was so looking forward to seeing this. He avoids social media, so I think his disappointment will be great. Never let the Brits. Okay, so this person says my main issue is that they didn't show Napoleon's tactical brilliance of pure genius. If you watch the movie without ever hearing anything about Napoleon, you wouldn't conclude or figure out from watching it. And he was a great general, let alone one of the greatest of all time. Instead, you would just think that he was an emotional and pathetic lunatic. Napoleon deserves an HBO series on the same level as Game of Thrones. I mean, quite honestly, I mean, if you're gonna have like, I hate to say it to that person, but Habu, cool to whatever your channel name is. I mean, dude, if you're like saying that Napoleon should have like its own HBO series, come on. If it's gonna be anything like this movie, no.
Shop Google's Holiday 100. Expected much worse. My friends, after my initial reaction to the Napoleon movie trailer, let's just say that I was already worried. But after watching the movie, it was worse than I expected. Much worse. A complete shipwreck. Are you not entertained? No. Even if we disregard the fact that they took a big dump on historical accuracy, the story itself has no pacing, and truthfully, it's not that interesting. Personally, I felt uncomfortable throughout the movie. Believe it or not, movie director Ridley Scott actually managed to turn Napoleon into a pathetic, emotional little weakling that always cries for Josephine. I expected an epic, badass retelling of Napoleon's story, even if it wasn't 100% historically accurate. But in the end, I just feel the Ridley Scott of The Duelists, Black Hawk Down, Gladiator, and Kingdom of Heaven is gone. Just like this article explained, Ridley Scott delivered a film that works better as a comedy than a historical epic. Ridley, what have you done? You were the chosen one! The critics are right. The movie felt like a parody of Napoleon. They even got heavily inspired, for legal purposes, by a funny scene from the movie The Death of Stalin, when they arrest all the leaders, or when Napoleon throws a fuss at the British and says, "Oh, you think you're better because you have boats." And I thought my jokes were bad. Never let the Brits cover French history. No. One thing I pay a lot of attention to is battle scenes. I'll give you my personal rating of each one of these historical battles in a moment. Whoops, it's blurred. But here are my main critics. Most of the battles either take place at night or have this very dark filter, and you don't see anything of what's actually happening. Tactics, maneuvering, firing by ranks. Nah, the battles consist of two groups simply crashing into each other like in a massive mosh pit. Exactly what you see in Viking movies. Why even carry a musket when all you're gonna do is punch each other and wrestle? You can't even see proper units marching in formation. It's always a huge swarm of troops. But the worst is when we see World War I trench tactics being employed in battles such as Austerlitz and Waterloo, which ended up being like a combination of Vikings in 1917. They couldn't even manage to make cannonballs actually bounce on the ground. It's just explosions everywhere. I mean, even Mel Gibson's The Patriot could get that right. Oh yeah, and if I can let loose, battlefields during that era spread across kilometers. It's just laughable to see Napoleon constantly.
We're not gonna watch the whole 22-minute video together, but he does have a point. It was just a complete disaster from the start. You know what I'm saying? And like I this movie was just horrible, so boring, and just so inaccurate. Um, like when Dad says, "Well, let's go see Napoleon," like I'm like, yeah, sure. Normally, when he asks us to go see a movie, if it's not a history movie, I will normally like before we go, I'll hop on YouTube and watch a trailer of it and still be excited to go. But when it comes to history movies, I usually just go with it because he was a history teacher in Australia, and he loves history movies and he reads history books, so I didn't think anything of it. But my God, this movie was so boring. This movie was just so boring, like you wouldn't believe. Like it is just outrageously boring. Um, so I mean, and he's absolutely right. It was like a complete comedy. It just seemed like a comedy. That's how boring it was. Like it's just, um, we're just the movie was just so bad. You saw it too. Sorry, I misspelled it on the title. I do apologize. Um, you know, I I normally when Dad says, "Oh, let's go see like a history movie," I'm like, "Yeah, sure, let's go," without even thinking about it. Like I don't even like watch the trailer before we go. And then like because I'm like so much into like history movies and shows because you know he was a history teacher in Australia like a long time ago, way before I was even alive, and so it's like I learned a lot. Any history movies, anything has to do with history, I go to him for. Okay, like he knows his history. Okay, so it's like you know I trust him when he says let's go see so and so movie if it's a history movie like Napoleon, and it was so bad. It was so bad. It was so bad. So I hate to say it, but those of us that are making reviews on this movie, movies like this, that are so bad, dude, come on. I mean, it's you know. So let's watch another reviewer, because why not? Let's watch another reviewer. Um, okay, Chris Stuckman. Let's see what he has to say.
For this week only, you can get NFL Sunday tickets starting at just $89.
So what is Chris Stuckman? Chris Stuckman reviews Napoleon starring. Okay, he just does that. Let's just see what he has to say.
And this epic details that Napoleon is directed by Ridley Scott and stars Joaquin Phoenix as the legendary military leader and eventually emperor. And this epic details the checkered rise and fall of French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte and his relentless journey to power through the prism of his addictive, volatile relationship with his wife, Josephine. At 85 years of age, Ridley Scott has more energy and exuberance than most young directors I've ever seen. I don't know what him and Martin Scorsese are on, but whatever it is, I need to find out and start doing it so that when I'm 85, I can make movies that are this good. And obviously, Ridley Scott has shown a love for films along these lines, historical epics, whether they're true or not. Films like Exodus, Gods and Kings, Gladiator, The Last Duel, Kingdom of Heaven. He knows what he's doing.
So he basically thinks that this is. Let's just read some of the comments real quick. So this person says, Chris smiling on the thumbnail means that the movie is good, and then I'm buying the tickets. Gold standard for YouTube movie review. This person said, honestly, What sucks is that the filmmaker like Scorsese and Scott probably only have a couple movies left in them. Given the fact that on average it takes about 2 to 3 years for one movie to even get made from the start and of the writing process until it's officially released. That's why we have to appreciate the fact that we have Napoleon and Killers of the Flower Moon both being released in the same year. This person has a long comments. I'm not even going to go over that right now. This person said Scott's set pieces are always incredible. The scenery becomes yet another another cast member. In these days of green screen propaganda, we can't uh, take what he does for granted. I don't even know what that even means, but whatever. Okay, here's a good comment. Here's a good one right here. This person writes, the problem with amazing scenes in Scott's historical dramas is that they generally turn out never to have happened. Oh yeah, here's another one right here. This person writes, to be fair, when it comes to older filmmakers such as Ridley Scott, the only thing they lose with age is a fear of failure. So exactly, like they make it like so inaccurate that like you know that hey, let's make it so inaccurate to the point where it looks so amazing, and then you know, so ugh. Okay, here's a good one. John Campia titles his video from 3 days ago saying Napoleon Review, a true disappointment.
Napoleon is now out. The newest Ridley Scott film starring Joaquin Phoenix, and there is the. How do you like my hat?
Yeah, it's a nice hat.
There's my hat. Starring Joaquin Phoenix and Vanessa Kirby, who's super hot right now. She's got a lot going on. Came out in theaters. Now, they showed us all the way back in April at CinemaCon. They showed us this.
So I really love how he titled a true disappointment because it was a true disappointment. Like Dad and I were going into this movie thinking, "Oh, this is going to be a great movie." We are obsessed with history movies. So whenever a history movie comes out in theaters, let's go see it. But this one was super disappointing. So let's continue watching John Campia's video review of Napoleon titled Napoleon Review, a True Disappointment.
Like 10-minute sequence of this battle that takes place on a frozen lake, and it was jaw-dropping. It looked so good. So I was a little bit surprised when early reactions and reviews started to come out about Napoleon, and they, quite frankly, sound a little bit lukewarm. Well, it was with great interest that I went out finally yesterday to watch Napoleon for myself. It's not a good movie.
Nope.
It's
not in the
now,
slightest.
everything is subjective. It's all up to movies are art. Art hits us all in different and unique ways. I'm sure there are some people, the critics are roughly split on Napoleon. So there are critics, who I respect that liked it. This is a badly made movie. And I'm going to tell you why I had such problems with it. Now, first of all, visually, it's beautiful. The cinematography of the movie is, and I'm sure you could tell this from the trailers and everything, are really artistically gorgeous. Quite breathtaking to look at. A huge amount of respect for that. Also, the battle scenes felt raw and visceral and so well shot. It really did. It had that, the scenes of the battles felt, and I know this is an overused word, epic. Really did. The big battle scenes felt big. It was gorgeous. It was beautiful. Joaquin Phoenix is Joaquin Phoenix. Vanessa Kirby delivers a great performance. But this is a unfocused, random zero build-up with moderate payoff mess of a movie. And I don't like to review a movie by comparing it to another, but just so you understand what I'm trying to say about it, I want to use, say, Braveheart as an example. Before a single fight.
So basically, when you go to see a history movie, so for writers like Ridley Scott and others that make these bad history movies, right? If you're gonna make a history movie, make it accurate. Okay. Like other movies, a movie series, you can make it as whatever you want. Right. You can make it like for example, like I don't know, like a Descendants series, right? It's like this it's not history, but it's like fictional and all that kind of stuff. Those movies like Descendants and Twilight and so on, you can make it as if it's has nothing to do with history. When you're making a history movie or a biography movie, you need to make it accurate, right? But any other movies that are fictional characters and whatnot, you can make it however you want to make it. You can have your characters do whatever you want, right? The scenes, everything. When it comes to history and biography, you need to make it accurate. Accurate, especially with history movies, because history, what we all know from the 1700s, 1800s is there was a lot of war going on, like a lot of like battle scenes going on, a lot of battle going on, a lot of cannons firing, a lot of firearms shooting and stuff like that. And it's just like there was so much of it. That's like one of the biggest problems of Napoleon is that Scott Riley's Napoleon 2023 is that is so bad. It was like so much of that. Let me just put it like this. There was less of like them like in the court and all that stuff like talking and in the houses and whatnot talking. And there was more of the battle scenes. And it was so gruesome. Did he really? I don't know if it was like if like what happened to to the white horse, the cannonball into his chest. If that is accurate, if that's how Napoleon's horse died, or because that article is saying that Napoleon didn't ride a horse, he rode a mule. So the cannon being shot into the white horse's chest, and then short time after, Napoleon actually walks up to his dead white horse, and literally sticks his arm into the chest, grabs that cannonball out and hands it to, I forget who it was, but it's so gruesome. It's so gruesome, so bad. It's just bad. It's just so bad, and it's just I don't know how on earth. Like, I mean, it is. There's more, battle scenes than there were of other scenes, and he did so little talking. Napoleon himself did way more, you know, fighting. He very didn't talk at all. Like he barely talked in the movie. Um, and I don't know if he had to have like if he had to like pregnant 18-year-olds. If the point was, I guess, like we would try to have a son take over for his place when he died. I don't know if that's actually true. I I know history, but I don't know Napoleon enough to really tell you much. So, but I'm telling you, like, Dad says it's bad. It's bad. these historian lovers as well, they're telling you it's bad. It's bad. So it is so poorly written, so poorly bad. I'll do my research on Napoleon and like look it up and stuff, and then come back and on YouTube and like make a video on it and compare the battle scenes and all that stuff. But it was so badly written. I mean, I'm just gonna watch it. You guys can listen. The John Campia.
Happens in Braveheart. The movie spends time giving us emotional anchors to the stakes of the battle coming ahead, why it's dramatically important, understanding the mindset of what was Braveheart's real name again in the movie? I keep forgetting.
William Wallace. Yeah, William Wallace.
William Wallace. You shoot lightning from his arse, right? Like understanding why this was a passionate thing for William Wallace, why this is all, and it's because I've always said on this show, action without narrative purpose is just visual noise, right? You guys have heard me say that a million times. Action without narrative purpose is visual noise. And every time in Braveheart took the battlefield, there was narrative purpose going on. Without giving away spoilers, I'm going to give you an example. And this one example represents the entire messiness of the movie. There's a scene in the movie where the Emperor Napoleon is sitting down with a Russian prince, the leader of Russia. And they're having this nice drink together, and they're talking about their mutual hatred of Britain and how they're going to be brothers and all this kind of stuff, right? Then the movie cuts from that to a completely unrelated scene. That something is do something completely different. And then the very next scene is Napoleon marching to war, narrating a letter, "My dearest Josephine, the Russian dude stabbed me in the back. I'm going off to conquer him right now." And you're like, wait, what? We just saw a scene with you guys having drinks. Something else happened that was unrelated. And all of a sudden now you're marching off to war. And why should I care? Why? There's no emotional hook. I like this is, and that's the whole movie. The whole movie is random. And I never felt like they were telling the story of Napoleon.
Exactly. Like I'll watch the rest of this on my own time, but I'm telling you, like it's just there was no narrative, and basically all Napoleon did was he just stood there, and we're just going like this, just staring at his men, waiting to do this to like tell his men to like fight. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and it was just so bad. It was just like, what the heck are we all watching? You know what I'm saying? All of us are sitting in the theater right now. What are we all watching? What is this? That was going on through all of our heads, I guarantee you. Again, like I said, I never fall asleep during movies anymore. But it was not entertaining one iota. Not at all. Because there was like no narrative. The beginning was very confusing. I mean, there was no explanation. Like, what is going on? Like, again, history movies are supposed to be accurate and have a have a narrative of what actually happened in that time period. And it was just so gruesome. The movie was super, 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 super gruesome. So, I mean, this movie was just so bad, so, so, so bad. I am just like, it was just so bad. And normally I would have popcorn and the soda and candy to eat, and have like during movies when I go to the movies. But this time, I, God, I knew it was gonna be gruesome, but I had no idea it was gonna be that gruesome. Like, it was just so bad. I mean, um, it's just so bad. It was like so poorly written. I mean, again, like they're gonna, you know, um, it was just so poorly written. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't believe I fell asleep twice during that movie. Twice. It was that boring. You know. So let's see if there's like other articles to go over because this is, you know, Napoleon. Let's see, review. So there's like any reviews on here. Audience rating summary: 2.3 star rating on this on Rotten Tomatoes. Okay, so let's read this. So Tyler Skeen 3 days ago says Napoleon. It was almost as if the trajectory of Ridley Scott's career was leading up to this film, but I don't think I was expecting Napoleon to leave me this moved, as it very well could have been the best film. Nah. Let's look at let's find the stars that are, there's like less stars basically. Well, here we go. Here we go. Richard Mell put 2 stars. Said a $250 million portrayal of the most interesting man in the history of the world, who single-handedly ended monarchy on continental Europe, a history refashioned for an American public on the precipice of losing their 250-year-old democracy. Shouldn't a Napoleonic movie of a funding magnitude at least do some justice to explain the remarkable means of methods of such a figure? Coming from a destitute of background, how did they rise? How did he rise to be an emperor? Why was he compelled to conquer all of Europe? What kind of man is repeatedly victorious on every battlefield, often with numerical disadvantage? No attempts were made to depict how on any of these were accomplished for our movie going generation. NB ended up with 57 victories against 2 losses, Acre Waterloo. With France was the complete, and this is a long, long, long comment. But I mean, nonetheless, it was just a very bad, bad movie. I was just going out with reading that person's comment because, like on Rotten Tomatoes, because Rotten Tomatoes is like a good source, basically, on Google. So you know, um, Anyways, it was just a bad movie overall. So, you know, okay, so Napoleon Bonaparte later. So this is like the actual like Napoleon Bonaparte right here. So I looked it up. So I'm just gonna read this part of it right here, and at the word revolutionary. We'll go over the Wikipedia stuff and all that stuff later. But anyway, I just want to read this like real quick here, and also over here real quick for the end of the video. So here we go. So Napoleon Bonaparte, later known by his original name Napoleon I, was French Napoleon the First. Napoleon I. Anyways, was a French emperor, a military commander who rose to prominence during the French Revolution and led successful campaigns during the Revolutionary War. Born August 15th in 1769 in France, and then died May 5th, 1821, Longwood House. So, The Guardian, I think we already read that article. Critics of Napoleon epic have fallen for emperor's fibs. Says, yeah. So, Britain, I can't remember. It's a Britain website, I think, says Napoleon biography, achievements, and facts. So yeah, born on August 15th, 1769 in Ajaccio, France, died May 5th, 1821 in Longwood House, Longwood, St. Helena, Assessian, and Tristan da Cunha. He was 5'6". His spouses were Marie Louise and Duchess of Parma, 1810 to 1821. Napoleon II, Eugene Hortense, Charles, some of his children, siblings, Louise Bonaparte, Joseph Bonaparte, Pauline Bonaparte, Lucie Bonaparte, and then deposed deposed dates April 6th, 1814, April 11th, 1814. So yeah, there was I mean, again, this movie is just so bad. So I'll keep that page open and we'll like go more over this, later on or something. But this is just so bad. Um, but yeah, all right. I'll see you all in the next few videos. Peace.